Alright, next on the list is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. So, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories is essentially since it's a Game Boy Advance game, there's really not much story here, but it is crucial to some other points later on. So, this is gonna be a shorter video as a result, so let's just start it off. So we start the game off right after Kingdom Hearts 1. Sora, Donald, and Goofy have been traveling down the road for I don't know how long. But eventually they find a castle just off in the distance. We don't know exactly where this is right now, but it's just there like the end of the road. And what this place is called is actually Castle Oblivion. I want you to take note of this place because it's very interesting later on in the series. So, Sora and the gang enter Castle Oblivion where they meet up with a cloaked figure. Now, who this cloaked figure is, many people have theories, and I'll put it to the end on exactly who it is. But this cloaked figure essentially says that this is Castle Oblivion, and the fact of the matter is that Sora has forgotten something very important. So he says. And in order to remember this, he needs to climb Castle Oblivion. But there's a catch. For every floor Sora and the gang go up, they forget something, but they also remember something. So that's the point of this castle, is you forget to remember, and you remember to forget. It's going to make sense a little later, so just hold on to that for a second. So, Sora, kind of like an idiot, just goes, okay, I'll try to remember what I forgot. And he starts going up the floors. Now, I say floors because this is a 13-floor castle. And there's a very unique reason why it's 13 floors. Each floor that you go up is you remembering something from Kingdom Hearts 1. And I know you may be saying, oh, well, isn't it a little bit early to do a recap game? Well, I would agree. It seems a little too early to do a sort of recap game. But the events are not exactly the same. For one thing, Sora remembers the characters, but the characters don't remember Sora. So it's more like, to them, they're meeting a total stranger. But to Sora, he's meeting his friends all over again, and it's experiencing almost the same exact thing, but not really. Like I said, it's not an exact recap of the events, but they are just revisiting the worlds from Kingdom Hearts 1, including 100 Acre Wood, which I forgot to mention in my first review, but ultimately it has no story relevance. It's just essentially a minigame place. And just like in the first one, this also is just sort of a minigame thing. So I won't be telling what exactly happens in each floor, because in the overall scheme, it's irrelevant. At least, if there is relevance to it, I'm not seeing what it is. But anyways, I'm going to stick to the main story, which is all of the places in between each room. Because there's like two areas. There's like a place at the bottom of the stairs, then you go up the stairs, and there's a place at the top of the stairs for each floor, so you can decide which room you want to go to next. So, most of the story just revolves around essentially these cloaked figures who are part of an organization that I can't say it because it's a spoiler for Kingdom Hearts 2. So I'm just going to call them the organization. So, Sora faces off with 5 of these organization members. You have the fiery, passionate one, Axel. You have the sadistic, energetic one, Larxene. You have the cool as ice scientist, Vexen. And you have Marluxia, who is the leader of the group, or at least the leader of this ragtag group. And there's finally one last person who's technically part of the organization, but she's sort of kidnapped, and that's Naminé. Naminé is very important, but I'll get into her later. So, within each floor, after completing each floor, you'll meet up with one of the 4. With nearing the end, you'll meet the 5th. Now, the organization members, the ones that wear the cloaks, end up being they shit talk you, and then eventually you battle with Sora defeating each one, but then they end up disappearing, or in some cases they get destroyed by their own members. Specifically, Axel. Now, the reason why he's doing this, we won't know until way later, but for right now, he's just sort of a traitorous kind to this organization. But Axel is the only one that you defeat that he doesn't die, per se. You defeat him and you never see him ever again, except in the cutscenes where, they're talking amongst each other. But there's also one other person that will come apparent relatively early in the middle game, and that's Riku. He seems to be back, and he's still using the darkness, like the Ansem Riku outfit, where he has that weird skirt, and he uses his keyblade, his dark keyblade, and slowly but surely, he first gets there, and Sora's like, "What are you doing, Riku? I thought we were friends." And at first, Riku just wants to fight Sora for the sake of fighting Sora. But then, as Sora goes up some floors, his memories start changing. For those who have played the first Kingdom Hearts game, it's pretty apparent. They don't hide anything. But the first thing being is that Sora forgets things, but then later on he'll remember something else. But what you have to understand is a lot of it is lies. You see, I mentioned a member of this organization known as Naminé. She's technically part of the organization, but under technicality because she's being forced to be there. Her ultimate power is that she can manipulate the memories of Sora, Donald, and Goofy. She is slowly, as Sora is going up these floors, altering his memory. And it starts becoming apparent because Sora starts remembering. At first, he remembers Naminé being just an extra person on Destiny Islands, and she was always the sick child, but they were friends nonetheless because reasons. I mean, personally, he says it she's always sick, and she's always drawing and always being an introvert, while the rest of the team is essentially extroverts. They're always looking for something to do. Well, Naminé is just sitting down drawing. And at first you could believe it because they're going into parts like before. Because Sora says that at one point, Naminé's mom sent her away to like another town, and that's why you don't see her. So they try to play it off like maybe she is, but it's revealed later that she's just manipulating his memories. And I didn't bring this up in the first storyline, but this game is going on the mentality of Wonderland's story, which is people will believe anything if you say that they said it. You know what I mean? Like, if I told you guys, like if we were hanging out, if a couple of you guys were hanging out with me, and I said, oh man, you never used to be like this. You told me once that you could jump off here and shoot a hoop. If you ultimately don't remember that, you more likely will agree with me if I'm adamant about it. If I seem confident enough that I'm saying, oh yeah, you did do this, you will eventually start believing that, yeah, you did. Like how Sora did to the Red Queen, to sort of play off being suspects. He told the Queen that she had told him to go retrieve her memories, and because the Queen obviously is arrogant, she said, oh yeah, I remember. Of course I remember. Good job. That's the mentality they're trying to do here, but in more of a hypnotic suggestion type of way. Like, Naminé is actually going into Sora's memories and altering them. And at the same time, she's also altering Riku. Because at one point, Sora, and I didn't mention this in the first one because it, again, was kind of irrelevant to the overall story of Kingdom Hearts 1, but during the Traverse Town talk with Kairi, she gives him a good luck charm, which is like a star, and it's ultimately a good luck charm to, essentially for him to remember her by. Naminé ultimately alters it, so it's like yellow, and it's different. He connects that with his deep, connection to Kairi, but instead it's now to Naminé. To the point where he thinks she's kidnapped, and she is, and he now has to go save her, because, oh my god, how could I forget about Naminé? God, Naminé's in here? I need to go save her. To the point where Riku goes, you're not her protector, I am. And he whips out the same keychain, or at least Sora thinks he's looking at. It isn't until, spoiler, Destiny Islands, which is like the second to last floor, that ultimately Naminé breaks free from Marluxia's observation and the rest of their observations, that she ultimately goes to Sora and goes, no, you have to remember. I may be able to mess up your memories, but deep down in your heart, I can't change those. And so it's essentially like friendship and love will always destroy any magic, and that touchy-feely, like, Saturday morning cartoon stuff. And he looks at the charm again, and he realizes that it's Kairi. Kairi is the one he swore to protect, or at least swore to meet again, or whatever it was. And so he essentially breaks free, but for whatever reason, opposed to just realizing that he's been tricked and he should get out of there, he continues to go save Naminé. And his logic is, it feels real to him. Despite the fact that he even says that these memories might be a lie that you fabricated, but they feel so real to me, and I'm going to save you. In which I just facepalm. In all honesty, I facepalm. Because if you know it's a lie, then it's not real. If someone told me that they were messing with my memories and that they altered it so they would seem important to me, I would break that off and be like, you broke my trust. Why am I going to save you? You've ruined it. You've ruined any relationship we might have. But to Sora, that's not it. And to me, it just seems like selfish is the best way I can put it. Like, it's selfish, and he's just being a hero. But anyways, so he gets to Marluxia, who's the final boss, and after defeating Marluxia, he meets up with Naminé in her room, and pretty much goes, I'm here to save you, let's go. And she gives him this decision. She can repair all of his memories. He'll remember everything from Kingdom Hearts 1, but none of Castle Oblivion. He will totally forget Castle Oblivion for the sake of remembering the rest of his memories. And he goes, okay, but I want to remember you. I don't want to forget about you. Which Naminé just sort of giggles and says, okay. And his story ends with him going into essentially a pod, going into stasis, same with Donald and Goofy. And Naminé swears that when he wakes up, he will remember his memories, his chain of memories will be fixed. Now, that's only one half of the story. You see, in Chain of Memories, when you complete Sora's campaign, you actually get Riku's campaign. And so now, here I'm going to be talking about Riku's story. It's kind of like Sora's, where there's not much here. It's even less in Riku's case. But, again, it's important for other games to come. So, Riku, when you last remember, he was on the other side of that door that led to the darkness, and he was going with King Mickey to essentially leave. I don't know exactly why they went through it, but they were in the realm of darkness at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. And somewhere between that moment and Chain of Memories, the two separated. And Riku is just drifting in the darkness. And he somehow finds his way to Castle Oblivion. But in the basement levels. He's at basement 13. And so, essentially, you're still going up, but you're getting out of Castle Oblivion by going from the basement to the first level, to the first floor. So that's your ultimate goal, is you need to get to the first floor. Now, why Riku is doing this? Ansem wants to regain Riku's darkness, essentially. He is fully succumbed to the darkness in Kingdom Hearts 1. So his heart is just pure black. And Ansem ultimately wants to get back that body. So essentially he can be like reborn or whatever. But he's still connected to Riku's heart because of his central pact with Ansem. So a part of Ansem is still in Riku. Now, Riku doesn't want that. Riku is going to fight Ansem all the way. So, as Riku is going up these floors, it's apparent that there are actually two other organization members. And I do mean organization members. There's essentially the boy genius Zexion, and essentially the brute Larxius. And Vexian is actually sort of going in between the basement levels and the top floor levels. And so Vexen actually goes over and actually makes a copy of Riku. Now, I didn't bring this up in Sora's because it really wasn't apparent. You know, they obviously said that he was a puppet, and Sora still felt a connection to it because it was Riku, but it was sort of like a minor detail in a way, because it ultimately led to nothing except for Riku being the guard of Naminé near the end. Puppet Riku becomes the guard for Naminé. But in Riku's side, you only fight Puppet Riku twice. The first one is just Puppet Riku wants to feel superior to the real Riku. The second time, Puppet Riku wants to see what makes real Riku so strong. And so, it ultimately ends up where Riku wins, and Puppet Riku just sort of admits defeat and just accepts his fate. Now, it's kind of revealed that this is all happening after Sora's missions through Castle Oblivion, because Puppet Riku sort of has a heart in a way. He's starting to gain a consciousness, a heart of some sort, and he kind of has that during the second fight. So, once Riku dispatches Puppet Riku, he moves on to the final part, which again is Castle Oblivion. And it's like Basement 1. Basement 1 is the final area of the game. Around Basement 3 or 2, near the relative end of the Riku story, King Mickey actually ends up finding Riku in Castle Oblivion. Throughout the whole time, he's sort of been like a guiding light, sort of helping Riku, but not really there. But around Basement 3 or 2, he actually finally catches up and actually appears there and decides to help Riku through and through. You know, he's actually there to help Riku and guide him in essentially the right way, in a kind of friendly way, not a I'm a king and you should do what I say kind of way. Like, Mickey doesn't know what's best, but he's just giving advice that ultimately helps Riku. So now the fight with Ansem, and Riku decides he has to face Ansem by himself. He has to take on his darkness by himself to ultimately conquer his darkness and Ansem. The thing is, Riku does win, but Ansem is still a part of Riku's darkness in his heart. And as such, Ansem kind of made a curse on Riku to essentially, if he ever saw the light, or at least the worlds, Ansem would take full force and take over him. Not as, Riku Ansem, but as Ansem. He has to essentially accept the darkness in his heart to fully go Ansem, which would be bad. So at the end, Riku sort of covers his eyes in like a bandana so that he cannot see the light, so that Ansem will not take over his body. He covers his eyes. Outside, and this is why it's more revealed that this is happening after Sora's story, because you meet a man who I'm going to reveal as Diz, because I can't remember if they say his name or not. Diz ultimately looks at Riku and goes, "Which path are you going? The path of light or the path of darkness?" With Riku going, "I'm going to go my own path. I'm going to walk the fine line between the two, and I'm going to be a Twilight Keyblader." I'm not exactly sure if he says those exact words, but I'm going to call that type of Keyblader a Twilight. For future reviews, that's a Twilight Keyblader, is a Keyblader that uses the power of darkness to aid the light. So although he's using darkness, he's helping the light realm. Opposed to causing destruction, he's hoping to preserve and protect using these powers. And he ultimately needs to find a thing to put Sora's memories into, which isn't revealed until the next game. So that's exactly where the game ends. So until next time, I'll be talking about Kingdom Hearts 2. I'll see you in the next video. Adios! Okay, so I realized I didn't say who I thought the masked person in the beginning of the Chain of Memories was, and so I'm just going to take some time to elaborate on that. Now, I don't remember Re-Chain of Memories much, which is just Chain of Memories with a couple new features, but mostly it's voice acting, because the first version of it, just regular Chain of Memories, was Game Boy Advance game, which means it didn't have voice acting, it was just text box. So it was really hard to figure out who it was. So if anyone actually has Re-Chain of Memories and can tell me the voice, that'd be much appreciated. But I believe it's either Marluxia or Axel who tell Sora about, in order to remember, you have to forget, and in order to forget, you have to remember, that type of thing. So I realized I forgot to mention that, so I just took some time to elaborate here. So once again, I'll see you in the next episode.